Hello everybody, welcome back to the ASUS ROG YouTube channel. It's me, JJ, once again, and I've got something pretty awesome for you. I have something that a lot of you guys have been asking me about, which is right here, our brand new Maximus 4 Gen Z motherboard. So this is the first entry for the actual Z68 chipset on the ROG side of the family that's going to be micro ATX. So this is always really cool. We're always really interested in doing, a full-featured powerhouse board that gives you a lot of functionality, a lot of performance, a lot of control, but in the small form factor design. But the Gen Z is not only special from the fact that it's the first ROG Z68 board, but it's also the first board that we've ever produced that's going to be utilizing a digital VRM. So in other videos that we've discussed and other unboxings, we've gone into kind of some of the benefits of what a digital VRM is going to be able to provide, and we'll definitely go into some of those other aspects as we go ahead and go through the overview and unboxing. But let's go ahead and jump to it. First and foremost here, we've got the actual box. This is for the Maximus 4 Gen Z. So this is part of the ROG family. Kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown in terms of how the product stack breaks down is that we have Gen, which is considered kind of like the entry level to the ROG product line while still being featured rich, but is going to be usually a small form factor board, so micro ATX. Then the next step up is usually Formula, which is a full ATX motherboard, which is really focused at giving you multi-GPU flexibility, high-end performance, usually game-oriented software and functionality, and then of course strong overclocking support. And then kind of the king of the crop in terms of the performance, the bells and whistles, really pushing the envelope in terms of what you can do with the board. You've got the Rampage, the Extreme series. So let's go ahead and jump into the Gen board that we have here though. So we've got the box here. We're going to go ahead and pop this guy open and take a look at what we're running with here. So first and foremost, one of the really key items that you're going to see here is the actual look of the board, but we're not going to jump into the look of the board yet. We'll go ahead and hold that off here for a moment, and we'll take a look here at the accessories that we have available for our Gen Z. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the kind of little placeholder. And first and foremost, we've got our I/O shield. So as always, it's of course for ROG, it's our padded I/O shield, which helps to reduce EMI interference, giving us better stability and minimizing any type of effect that it might have to the I/O area, to the VRM, as well as it makes the installation process easier because this is softer padding, allows you to go ahead and press into the case more easily and get that seated in there. Got some zip ties, allows you to go ahead and have a little bit more clean, effective cable management when you're working inside your chassis. We've got the awesome Q connectors. These guys are just killer. It just makes the process of connecting the leads from the inside of your chassis to the motherboard a really straightforward and easy process. So you've got one for your power, your reset, your HD LED and whatnot, and then you've got another one for the USB. So essentially you connect those leads to here, and then you'll go ahead and connect that header to the corresponding header points, such as this one right here, which would be for the power and the reset and the power LED and whatnot. So that would be that. So just allows it, make it a little bit easier instead of having to individually lead each lead into the board. You got SLI bridge, because that's right, this is an ATX motherboard, and while most, micro ATX motherboard, and while most small form factor boards generally don't focus at giving you multi-GPU capabilities, this board is definitely focused at being able to go ahead and give you dual graphics card support. So we've got the bridge included in here. We've got, of course, our infamous white cable, which for you guys that do not know is ROG Connect. So ROG Connect is an ASUS ROG exclusive technology. So if we look here on the board, we're going to see that there's going to be a white USB port. That white USB port, which we'll dive into later, is specifically for that cable. So that's going to allow us to go ahead and make a connection to an externally enabled USB PC and allow us to go ahead and have some special functions that we'll go into. We've got 6 serial ATA cables, and we have 2 that are specifically rated for SATA 6G operation, and then we have 2 here that are rated for normal SATA 3G operation. So we pretty much got you covered here in terms of utilizing all 6 ports that's featured on here. Moving forward, of course, we have key item that definitely you should always try to reference when you're initially taking a look at your system, putting it together. We've got the manual and the user guide. So this pretty much gives you all the information on the ins and outs, connections, recommended configuration as far as which memory banks to use or any other questions that you have like that. We've we've got, of course, the driver support CD. You can always attempt to go ahead and go to support.asus.com, where you'll find the latest version of any of the UEFI builds, or BIOS builds as they're sometimes referred to, and of course latest version of drivers. But for some of the drivers as well, you can always go directly to like the chipset site. Intel, take for instance, update.ray. You also get some of the actual software included on this disk as well that we're utilizing with this unit, and we'll dive into some of the special pieces of software that actually come included here a little bit later. And lastly, we've got our labels, which is a cool little option that you can go ahead and attach to the serial ATA cables, allowing you to quickly and easily know which port to which device you have everything linked up to. So it makes that pretty straightforward. And lastly, we've got a cool little ROG sticker, which you can go ahead and put on your chassis, put on your wall, put on your bed, your backpack, somebody's face. You know, no. You won't ever want to put that unless they're running a competitor's motherboard. So you got a whole bunch of cool little items that come along here, but let's go ahead and really jump into the star of the show here, which is the motherboard. So we're going to go ahead and put these accessories back into the box here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at this board and tell you a little bit about what it can do and what's making this board a little stand out. Okay, so we got this put away here, so let's go ahead and take a look at our Maximus 4 Gene Z. Okay, so we've got the board here. You can see that it's pretty aggressively styled. It's got the classic red and black aesthetic that is always featured on our ROG motherboards. So you can see, first and foremost, we have a really aggressive heat pipe assembly here. So we have a sintered heat pipe that actually runs underneath the actual heat sinks here that are going over the actual VRM. Underneath these, we have our specialized what's called Extreme Engine Digi Plus VRM. So we have our direct FET MOSFET and driver package. We can see here, we actually can see part of the exposed sintered heat pipe, which is helping to go ahead and keep everything cool. And of course, we can see all the cuts, which allow us to have micro points of diffusion and dissipation so that airflow can come through here, pick up on those points, and effectively go ahead and help keep everything cool, stable, and ensuring the best long-term operation. Of course, we've also gone ahead and put a very good quality heatsink on here on this small form factor board, because we have designed this Extreme Engine Digi to go ahead and be able to have the same type of driving strength potential that you see not only in our ATX boards, but even in our ROG ATX motherboards. So this is a board that really well focused at a number of different types of users, whether you're just looking for an awesome small form factor build, maybe you're going to be doing, you know, a small form factor LAN gaming box, maybe you want to go ahead and have just one single GPU, but you want to crank up and get to a high level of performance via overclocking, and you just want a more simplified, clean setup system. You have that option too. You got really a lot of flexibility. You can go with this route, but the Extreme Engine Digi is going to give you a great amount of efficiency and go ahead and help you to go ahead and push up to some high clock frequencies. So definitely not going to be holding you back here. Now, looking at the rest of the board, let's go ahead and first jump over to the I/O, which is always a point of interest. So for I/O, we're going to go ahead and flip this guy around because it might be a little bit easier for us to reference. So here we've actually got an awesome Maximus 4 Gene Z set up. We're going to go ahead and take a look here at our I/O. So we can see here, first and foremost, we've got two USB 2 ports. We've got a PS2 combo port, so that's going to be good for your USB keyboard and your mouse. Then we have 4 more USB ports, with the white port being special. That white port is your ROG Connect port. What's unique about this is a low-level implementation that allows us to go ahead and access the motherboard directly from a USB-enabled PC, so such as like a notebook, a netbook, a desktop, possibly even a tablet if it's running a Windows operating system. What this is going to allow us to do is go ahead and have control over things like the multiplier, the B clock on the board, voltages, and a number of other parameters. Plus, we get some really cool monitoring functionality. If you guys have checked out some of the other videos in the past, we've gone ahead and covered some of the things you can do, like looking at temperatures, fan speeds. You can restart the system, shut it down. You can even control the graphics card or even see postcodes as your system is actually starting up, shutting down, or potentially maybe having an issue, so that you can see more clearly what part of the system is effective. So this is a pretty extensive functionality that's offered here on this board, and that is exclusive to the ROG series. Moving over next, we've got a clear CMOS. So for you guys that are diehard overclockers, sometimes you push the board too hard Sometimes you're going to need to be able to recover the board back to that factory setting. You can go ahead and just depress that button and be good to go. You've got then 2 eSATA ports, so you've got high-speed eSATA connectivity, which while on top we can see that we have 2 USB 3 ports, which is awesome because they're great for 1080p web cameras, USB 3 external flash drives, hard drives, high performance scanners, a number of different types of USB 3 peripherals. eSATA still has a really strong benefit in giving you high performance for external serial ATA storage or for different types of SAN storage devices where you need a high amount of consistent throughput. So right now, even though USB 3 offers a really high level of performance, it tends to be potentially slower than actually eSATA specifically for storage-based connectivity. So it's still nice to have that available to you there. Next up here, we've got 2 more USB 2 ports, and then we've got Gigabit Ethernet. But this isn't any type of Gigabit Ethernet. Of course, we're on an RG board, so that means that we're standing out and we're utilizing an Intel Gigabit Ethernet package. Included with the actual motherboard, we also have a special piece of software that's called Game First. This is a special piece of packet priority software, so essentially it looks at the information, the packets that are coming into your system, going out of your system, and optimizing them for the type of traffic and performance you're looking for. So that might be maybe peer-to-peer, it could be a game, it could be a voice over IP application like Skype, it could be a lot of different things, but we're giving you that software to be able to have that level of control with that high-quality Intel network controller. So you're really stepping up to the next level in terms of performance and connectivity that you have available to you. Now here we have another connection which is unique to the Z68 platform, but also could of course be on an H67 board. But the cool thing about this is actually HDMI. So of course Sandy Bridge-based CPUs have an integrated graphics chip, what's referred to as the iGPU. The iGPU is an actual graphics controller that would allow us to go ahead and have basic functionality such as Blu-ray decoding, web browsing, H.2.64 decoding, transcoding functionality via its fixed function engine, which is also part of the chip. So this is cool because it allows us to access that low level without actually even need to have a discrete graphics card. But what's also unique about this platform is if we take a look here on the box is letting us know that this motherboard supports Virtua. And with that technology, essentially we have the ability to go ahead and run a discrete graphics card that we have here on the system, but we can still actually use the iGPU's fixed function engine to be able to do transcoding. So we get the flexibility of actually being able to use both parts of our system simultaneously and with almost no impact in performance. So that's a pretty cool implementation that you have available to you. Plus you get some flexibility in terms of the amount of monitors that you would be able to drive simultaneously. So that's some nice options, especially on a small form factor board. And lastly, we've got our gold-plated audio jacks, and these are driven by our high-quality PHY codec controller that we have on the motherboard, which we work with Creative Labs, and we have a special X-Fi Motherboard 2 version software suite that's packaged on there, allowing you to have more control over the types of sound and profiles and EAX and a couple of other variables that allow you to kind of tweak and tune the sound profiles to your game or your music to the best kind of your preference. So that's pretty cool. That rounds out the I/O connectivity. So let's move back over to the board and see what else the board physically has on it in terms of a layout. So we'll jump back over to the board here, and we can see that we definitely have quite a bit more to go on here, even though we're still only dealing, of course, with the micro ATX board. So going up from the top here, of course, we have our 8-pin CPU power. So of course, this is going to ensure strong power delivery. Next thing that we want to kind of take a look at is maybe the fan connectivity options. This is usually a place where most micro ATX boards or sometimes the smaller form factor boards are pretty weak. So let's go ahead and do a count. First, here we can see that we have 2 actually fan headers right here at the top. The really cool thing about that is that if you utilize a high performance heatsink like that we have here, we have an awesome Corsair A70 dual fan heatsink cooler for our 2500K that we're running here. You need 2 fan headers. So we have those set up right there at the top, easy for you to be able to go ahead and enable a dual push-pull fan configuration without having to go ahead and run your cables to multiple parts where they might not necessarily be long enough. So we've got 2 there. I'm gonna go ahead and check. We've got another one right here, right behind the 24-pin power connection, which is a great placement, especially in your chassis. Might maybe be for an intake fan. Then we've got another right here, which is back towards the CMOS battery and above one of the by 16 PCIe lanes. So that's also a great placement in the event that maybe you have a back chassis fan, or it could be a displacement fan in this area as well. So let's go ahead and continue to move around here, and we've got one other one down here in the bottom right-hand corner. So that rounds out our fan connectivity there. So in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have 5. So 5 fan headers. That gives us a lot of fan control and functionality, especially on a micro ATX motherboard. And as always, we're really committed to giving you a lot amount of control for this, so you have full independent manual fan control that you can assign for the CPU and for the chassis fan header. So you can set that up in either targeted profiles, or you can set those up with manual control options. So let's continue to move along, and we can see that of course we have all full, solid, high quality Japanese caps, which are very highly rated in terms of their overall performance and their lifespan. You can see that we have 2-phase power, our super alloy power. So you can see these are very large chokes. So those are actually rated for a much higher level of amperage delivery, so that gives us overall better power delivery. So both for DRAM overclocking and for CPU overclocking. One cool connection that we see right here is we have a front USB 3 header. So that's pretty awesome. So not only do you have 2 USB 3 ports on the back of the board, but then you have another 2 USB 3 ports that go ahead and connect to the front chassis header on most of the newer cases that are on the market. Now, one thing that's special in terms about how we go about this implementation, compared to a lot of competitors, is that we're now using a hub mechanism. We actually have an actual chip for this actual connector, and then another chip powering that connector. That goes ahead and helps us to maintain better bandwidth and overall better performance, especially if you're going to have multiple USB 3 devices, potentially one on the front header on the top of your chassis, and then maybe another one plugged into the back. So something to keep in mind, that sometimes even boards that you see that have 4 USB 3 ports, not all boards are made equal. Another awesome feature here that we have here is, of course, full right angle serial ATA connections, with these 2 ports denoting that these are the SATA 6G. So we have 2 ports here which fully support RAID functionality. So if you want to have high performance RAID configuration, whether it's mechanical or SSD, bam, you're good to go. But this being the Z68 chipset, you have a lot of functionality that you have with your serial ATA ports, where you support a technology called Intel Smart Response Technology, or SSD caching. So a user could go ahead and take an SSD and a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte mechanical hard drive, use that SSD as a cache, and increase their overall system performance. Now, keep in mind that SSD caching technology is not going to offer the same performance as a single SSD running by itself, but it will provide the benefit of being able to give you an increase in performance without necessarily looking at the high cost per dollar that you're going to have when you're considering buying like a 256 gigabyte or larger base SSD. So it's a very nice technology, especially for a small form factor system where you want to maybe have quicker boot times, faster game loads and whatnot. So you got a lot of flexibility there. Moving over here to one of the always great parts of the board to focus on, we're looking at the actual connectivity options for graphics card support. So we got a full x 16 physical slot, and then we have another x 16 physical slot. When you go ahead and run SLI or Crossfire on the system, those would go ahead and drop into x 8 but this board does fully support both SLI and Crossfire, so awesome for micro ATX support to do that. For most users though, they're generally only running one single GPU, as we have here in our testbed system, where we've got a GTX 560 Ti direct to YouTube top. And you would still have available to you some more expansions, so whether that's maybe running a RAID card, sound card, TV tuner, or any number of other PCIe peripherals that you have available to you, still got some flexibility to you there. Moving over to the bottom portion of the board here, we've got of course our power button, we've got our reset button, and then we have a debug LED. Now, even though we have ROG Connect, and ROG Connect allows us to actually see the postcodes externally on a system real time in either what's called string or in code format, you can't always, of course, reference this, so that's what makes ROG Connect nice. But for those diehard users, or somebody that's maybe running it in a chassis like this, or maybe on an open test bed, maybe pushing their system overclocking it, it's nice to have the debug code so that you can go ahead and reference what might be maybe potentially having an issue with your system. For our more basic users though, we actually have a visual system that we've built onto the motherboard. It's kind of difficult to see, but if we look here, we actually have 4 LEDs. And this is part of what's called our exclusive QLED diagnostic system. So there's one for the CPU, one for the DRAM, one for the graphics card, and one for the boot device. So in the event that maybe you didn't fully seat the memory or the CPU, maybe the graphics card didn't have power, serial ATA device is not connected, a number of different issues that could potentially happen with the system. One of these LEDs would actually light and let you know that the system is not actually responding normally. You could go ahead and reference that, and then it would post through and go through without any issues. So that's another nice touch. Another focused touch here at kind of the more extreme community are the die-hard guys that really like to push their systems, get into the monitoring aspects of their system. We can see here that we have voltage measure points, so that if you're looking to go ahead and be able to measure accurately the type of voltage that's being supplied to different parts of the system, whether it's the DRAM, the CPU, or other parts, you can go ahead and use a multimeter and go ahead and measure that. But us utilizing a digital controller and our really well done UEFI allow us to report pretty accurate findings, whether it's in the UEFI, the BIOS, or within the operating system via AI Suite 2. Here we've got our what's called Go button, and this actually serves two functions. One is it's Mem OK. So if your system was to go ahead and power on, maybe after a recent memory upgrade, so you started with 2 DIMMs and then you put in 2 more DIMMs, but maybe from a different vendor, different speed, your system might not always work correctly. We do always strive to try to make sure that compatibility is as high as possible, but you can sometimes run into a problem. So in the event that maybe the DRAM LED goes off, lets you know you have an issue, you can go ahead and press that button, and what it'll go ahead and do is reset the memory to basic safe compatible settings so that the system can go ahead and post and then boot successfully. Now, in some situations, you also get overclockers that use it. When we discussed before, talking about the clear CMOS, this is great for overclockers, but one disadvantage is that this button will go ahead and reset the board back to 100% defaults. So any settings that you might have had set to maybe your hard drive, your fan speeds, power states, any number of other items are all going to go back to the way that we originally shipped the board. So one benefit is that this option for Mem OK will only relax the memory timings and the frequency settings for the board, allowing you to go ahead and keep all those other valuable options, so you don't have to go waste your time and reload all those. So you can almost use it like a semi-clear CMOS, so that's pretty cool. The other function would be the Go button, that when you press this within the operating system, it will actually load a custom profile that you can save within the UEFI that allows you to go ahead and pre-designate an overclock. And once you press that button, it'll go ahead and automatically click into that overclock for you. So that's great for maybe systems like this, where you're going to be moving it, you want to set it up and you want to do a specific kind of run or bench on it, and you're good to go. So you're going to go ahead and just predefine that, pump that, and then you're all set. So overall, we can see that we definitely have a huge amount of connectivity and overall features and functions that are available to the board. We still definitely have some other exclusive technologies too that, while you don't see physically on the board, are going to be usable on the board. This is one of our launch boards that will be featuring a new piece of software called Mem Tweak. Mem Tweak works in conjunction with AI Suite 2, and it's a program that you can run within Windows that now allows you to change your memory timings on the fly within the operating system. So normally something like memory timings, which is very advanced and low level item, you'd have to go into the UEFI, dial in values, set those, reboot your system, and then go back in. But now as a user is tweaking and tuning their system, overclocking their system via AI Suite, where you can control the B clock, the multiplier, all your key voltages, it's now nice to also have the ability that you can manually define the memory timings as well. So that, along with the rest of the software that we're providing, makes things pretty robust in terms of its functionality. So overall, we can see here we've got a pretty awesome board. As always, if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, any type of feedback that you're looking to see, just let us know on the YouTube page, or hit us up at asusrog.com/forums. And I'll be more than happy to go ahead and do that for you. Definitely keep your eyes locked to the page though, because I'll be doing a lot of cool content with this. Thinking about doing an awesome small form factor build box if you guys are interested in that. Also, I'm going to be showcasing some overclocking potential, maybe showing you guys 5 gigahertz plus on a micro ATX board, and showing you what's the potential of not only this extreme engine Digi, but the options that are available to you in AI Suite, as well as some really cool automated overclocking options that are available on ROG series like CPU Level Up as well. So as always, thanks for the view, guys. Take care.